Hi, I'm Dr. Stefanie Christian. Welcome back to Tuesdays with Timeless. This month, we're talking about neuromodulators. And because the two neuromodulators I inject in my practice are Xeomin and Botox, when I refer to neuromodulators, those will be the two to which I am referring. Today, I'm talking about injecting neuromodulators into the upper part of the face, into the forehead to relieve the horizontal forehead lines, into the muscles that cause the vertical frown lines, and into the nasalis, which are the muscles that cause the bunny lines. We inject those muscles for 3 reasons. The obvious one is to get rid of the creases. The second one is to improve facial posture, and I'll explain that in a little bit. The third one is to decrease depression. But of course, I can't talk about wrinkles or anything that has to do with wrinkles without first talking about how to take care of the skin, especially in the winter. First, I want you to be eating 5 colors a day. Second, I want you to be staying away from processed food. And by that, a lot of that, I want you to stay away from food that is made from flour. So that's bread and crackers and pasta and cereal. It's okay to eat carbs, but I want you to eat whole grain carbs. That's wild rice, red rice, brown rice, quinoa, which actually isn't a grain, it's a seed, but it functions like a grain and it's actually a complete protein. Sweet potato. If you eat corn, corn is not a vegetable, it's also a whole grain. And then hydrate. Hydrate your skin from the inside, drinking a lot of water, and hydrate your skin from the outside using a good moisturizer. Fourth, using a good retinol. If you don't know what a retinol is or what the hype is, or you've had a bad experience with a retinol in the past, come on in and we'll help you choose a good retinol for you and teach you how to use it correctly. And fifth, my mantra. I want you to use a zinc-based sunscreen from your hairline to your nipple line every morning of every day, of every week, of every month, of every year. So now, on to the neuromodulators and injecting for the creases. So, our skin's attached to our muscles. And when we were 10, when the muscle contracted, the skin contracted and it made a little crease. When the muscle relaxed, the skin relaxed. And because we were 10 and we had great collagen and elastin, there was no evidence that it had ever contracted. But over the course of time, our skin ages. And it loses collagen, so the skin thins, and it loses elastin, so the skin loses some of that spring back. That natural aging is accelerated by smoking or secondhand smoke, by sun damage, by stress, by inflammation in our bodies, which is accelerated by processed foods, by toxins in the air, chemicals in our foods. And so we get to a point when the muscles underneath contract, the skin contracts, and we get a little crease. The muscles relax, and the skin doesn't fully relax, and we have a permanent crease. And that's usually the point at which people come in and say, I don't like these wrinkles, and nothing I've tried, no cream, no frownies, nothing is getting rid of these creases. And so we have to inject something that will get down to the muscle. And that's what the neuromodulators are. Those are the creases. Those are the medicines that we inject to improve the active creases, but also get rid of the passive creases. And we can inject them into the nasalis muscles to stop these bunny lines. We can inject them into the glabella, which stops the frown lines. And we can inject them into the frontalis to stop these horizontal creases. But I'll talk a little bit about the goal when injecting in this next section. I have for a long time talked about the yin and yang of this part of the face. meaning that you have muscles that are elevators and muscles that are depressors. After about 40, there's a lot going on in the face that leads to sort of sagging and downward movement. And it's very easy to simply say, well, gravity is having its way with our face, but it's not that easy. It's much more complex. Part of it is a loss of volume, part of it is a loss of collagen and elastin, and part of it is the fact that the muscles that move in the wrong direction are overbalancing the muscles that move in the right direction. And I've had a hard time wording this in such a way that people understood why I was discouraging them from freezing their foreheads. And I finally heard someone talk about it in a way that made sense and that I thought I could use to talk about this so that more people really understood it. And she talked about it in terms of facial posture. So the muscles in the forehead are your elevators. The muscles go up and down, and when they contract, they elevate the eyebrows. So these are really important muscles at a time in our lives when we feel like everything is going down. But this is the yin. The yang is right here. These muscles are depressors. They're pulling down, and these muscles right here are depressors, and they're pulling down. So if we want to get an overall elevation, we want to weaken these muscles and weaken these muscles and allow these muscles to get stronger. If we allow these muscles to get stronger, then we're going to have an overall rebalancing of the upper face that leads to a very natural lift. I do my own injections. I use Xeomin because it's very pure. It doesn't have any of the extra proteins that the other neuromodulators have, and I can adjust it. Now, genetically, I used to have creases on my forehead, creases that you could hold a nickel in, and those passive creases are gone, but I can still lift my eyebrows. This is one of the beauties of Xeomin. So if you are someone who's willing to have movement in your forehead, we can really have as our goal improving the posture of the upper face. What I want to do is I want to weaken the muscles here and weaken the muscles here and allow these muscles to get stronger. Obviously, I've injected my forehead, but I haven't completely taken away the movement. I've taken away the movement less than I have here and here. So that movement has stayed and it has gotten stronger and stronger. And that has been what has given me that upward pull. You've probably seen it. You may have seen it in a relative or a friend or a colleague, someone who has had their forehead frozen over and over and then got to an age when their eyebrows became flat and low. Not everyone has gullwing eyebrows. Some people have flat eyebrows, but even those people will eventually get to a point when freezing their eyebrows simply means that those eyebrows drop. And for people who have curved eyebrows, freezing their eyebrows, they'll get to an age when the curve will go away because they don't have the frontalis muscles lifting anymore and their eyebrows will become flat. There are people that have very heavy eyelids. It's a genetic thing. It's not anything that they did. And if they have any drop here, all of that fullness that's already there will be increased, and they'll start to have eyelid crawling out on their eyelashes. That is not a happy thing for them. So freezing the forehead is not a good idea. And on those people, even if they ask me to completely freeze their eyebrows, I'll say no, and I'll explain why. But it's a much better idea to leave these stronger, the elevators stronger than the depressors, and improve the posture. Okay, so we've talked about creases, we've talked about facial posture. Now we're going to talk about improving depression. There have been multiple studies dating all the way back to 2006 that have shown that injecting neuromodulators into the muscles that cause the frown lines decrease depression. And it turns out that there's a facial expression feedback loop to the brain. Frowning can make a person's mood worse. Therefore, if you do an injection that stops frowning, you lessen negative mood. It's that simple. So, injecting into nasalis, into the frown, and to a lesser extent, into the forehead, decreases creases. It balances the facial posture in the upper face, and it can decrease depression. Sounds like a win-win, especially right now when we spend so much time in our masks. What do we see? Those are the predominant areas that we see. The other part that we see that we can inject are the crow's feet, and I'll talk about those next week. Okay, I hope I've answered some questions. If you have any comments, please comment below. I love that interaction. Have a great week. Stay well. I'll talk to you next week.